everyone. I actually don't need these because I don't ever need them while I'm here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Spark. I see Minecraft's here. Welcome to another episode of The Spark, a show about what lights you up. I'm your host, C2, here on the Trident Network, a three-pronged digital entertainment network that produces live content here on Twitch right now, recorded content on our YouTube channel where you can find this show after it's recorded, and boasts a thriving podcast collective that you can find anywhere you can find podcasts. And I'm C2. Here are the Trident links. I'll put them in there. And welcome to the special gender episode of The Spark. I have been thinking a lot about gender, and I want to tell the story. I haven't formally come out. I never come out. I skip all the coming out. I just when I knew I was bisexual, I just started referring to myself as gay. I just started referring to myself as bisexual, as if everyone should know. Not a formal coming out whatsoever, just being like, yeah, pretty much I'm gay. Yeah, pretty much I'm bisexual. Yeah, pretty much. But never being like, hey everyone, I'm gay. Similarly, but not the same at all. My gender has changed from female, but has never changed. My awareness of my gender has changed, that's what I should say, to non-binary. This isn't even a formal coming out because I didn't tell anybody that I was going to do this here. Oh, you know what's not on? Here. This is what I didn't do. There we are. We need the lights for the cameras. I just started referring to myself as non-binary. But I want to tell the story of the first time it happened. I've been thinking that I was not a woman for this whole past year, but that I was just like, I don't have time to address this. I have to find a job. So I was focusing on finding a job, and I found a job. I found a job as a after-school extracurricular teacher for young kids from 5 to 9 were the kids, but it would be 5 to 7 or 7 to 9 were 10, maybe 10, because some of them were a little older. But I was doing after school programming, and the signs I had known I was non-binary, but I was like, I cannot address this. I need a job. But the dress code for the schools was you have to dress like an adult. And this was something that I've always had trouble doing, dressing in business casual clothes or dressing as an quote unquote an adult, because adult and business clothes and things like that. This is what I realized later. I had a complete meltdown because I didn't have any clothes that were appropriate to wear to a school. And when I first was going to the schools, I wasn't aware of the dress code, so I was dressing how I dress, which is a teenager. And it was only after I had read the handbook, after I'd been going to these schools for months or I should say weeks, not months, weeks, because the sessions were only a few months. And it was only then that I realized I was supposed to be dressing professionally. And I had a meltdown because I was I don't have any professional clothes and I hate dressing professionally. Gender dysphoria. Because of gender dysphoria, that's why you hate it. Not only because dressing business casual is lame, but because you are not a woman and you keep feeling you have to dress like a woman. Didn't think about it until right now. And I got the most gender neutral thing. I got a denim button up, and I had black pants, and that's what I wore. Need a tie with your jumpsuit. Well, that's very gender neutral for me too, Minecraft. I love that fucking jumpsuit. I need more jumpsuits is what I need. Thank you. You're right. I do need a tie for my jumpsuit. Yeehaw. So we can be yeehaw. but I was like, okay, fine, this will be fine. So one of the classes that I started teaching was a magic class. I was teaching magic tricks to children, which is hilarious to say. It's hilarious to me to say because like I'm not a magician, and I actually like don't really like sleight of hand magic. I have an appreciation for it now that I have grown exponentially so in learning magic, but before that I was like, how am I going to teach these kids magic? I taught them a few magic tricks. They were very pleased. But in one of my classes, it was like the third class in, I want to say it was like the third class in, and I was going about my business, and then one of the girls asks, she goes, "Are you a boy or a girl?" I haven't been asked that. And I don't remember the last time I've been asked that. So I was definitely shifting into androgyny already. Not purposely, just because I kind of knew. And I was like, I'm not binary. I don't have to dress like a woman. But I wasn't like, I have an explanation for children when they ask me, because I wasn't, I wasn't living like I was non-binary. Still am working on it. But then I go, oh, it's funny that you ask. I'm actually neither. I'm non-binary. And they looked at me and they were like, wait, but what's the real answer? But like, what are you really though? Because like adults do lie to children. This is another thing that I learned teaching children and working with children. Adults fucking lie to them constantly. Lie to them. So they're used to being lied to, and they're like, you're fucking with me, right? Like I was like, I'm neither. I'm not a boy or a girl. I'm neither. I'm something else. Secret, sinister third thing is how I feel. And they were like, but what's the real answer? And I was like, that's the answer. I'm neither. We talk a little bit about gender. I haven't even done the research. I didn't do a lot of research. I'm going off of what all the other non-binary people are saying, how they feel, and all the research they've done. And that's what I'm going off of. But it was funny. Well, I was like, well, sometimes I feel like, a little frog. And sometimes I feel like a possum who's had too much to eat. And they're like, oh yeah, I get that. They're like, oh yeah, I get that. But that was like, I didn't plan up for any of the kids to ask me my gender. But when they're little like that, and I'm reading a book, because I nanny for a transgender child, and I'm reading a book about transgender children. And that is around like 6 or 7. That's when they are like really trying to establish gender norms and gender. And it's been really interesting for me because I'm like, whoa. And it's the only thing I've been thinking about. Usually I'm thinking about like, I don't want to say it's the only thing I've been thinking about, because that's also not true. I'm also thinking about like late stage capitalism and the environment. Hi, Smokey. And I'm thinking about Palestine, and I'm thinking about the Congo, and I'm thinking about what if the United States economy collapses and I still live here? So I'm thinking about a lot of things that aren't just gender. But the idea of gender, and my gender specifically, has permeated everything. And I feel like every day is a new like reminder of like my previously I don't want to say unforeseen, because it's not really unforeseen. It's not very surprising. I don't think it's very surprising. I've been leaning pretty androgynous for a while now. But my talking about it, and I wasn't like, I'm gonna have a special episode where I come out as non-binary. This is just what I've been thinking about. So I haven't even formally come out. I didn't tell any, I told, and then the way that unexplored, thank you, Minecraft. There you go, that's perfect. Unexplored. The way that I told my roommates was I told them this story about me telling the children that I'm non-binary. Because I don't even know what's going on. But what I can tell you is that it makes sense. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, is all of the gender revelations I've had. Because that's all I've been thinking about. And it explains, it's crazy, because then I'm reading this transgender book for trans children. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my life. This is what happens. This is what happened. Because I was very like put off by puberty. I was very uncomfortable with puberty. Puberty is uncomfortable in general. Nobody really likes going, nobody's going to tell you that they like going through puberty. Puberty sucks. But I was very like, oh my God, I cannot, even before I got my period, even before I was going through puberty, when I was 11, my body started changing, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And people also started commenting on my body. Not even in like a sexual way, but right about when I was 11, people were being concerning themselves with my body, and I hated it. I still to this day cannot even explain the pure revulsion, and not even it wasn't like I'm disgusted by my body. It was just like, I hate having a body. And I felt like that from 11 to 17, maybe 11 to 17. So my entire puberty time, basically, until I was an adult, hated having a body. Wearing clothes was weird. I hated girl clothes. Some girl clothes are fun, but most of them are restricting and tight. And I was also queer. And I didn't know I was queer because nobody was queer. You knew that there were gay people, but nobody was queer. You didn't know any gay people unless they were in your family. And even then, I didn't have any gay people in my family who were out. And I still don't. I know I'm technically not the only, statistically, technically not the only gay person in my family, but the only out gay person, that's me. So I didn't have any, except for I didn't have any gay representation, except for Queer Eye for the straight guy. Queer, bisexual, non-binary, not a thing. Not a thing that exists. I didn't even know non-binary was a thing until 5 years ago? Maybe. I always thought I'm being a woman badly. I don't know how to be a woman. It's bad and sucks. I hate that. Ew, sucks that I have to be a woman. And then one day last year, I was like, wait, I don't have to be a woman. I'm not a woman? Wait, I don't have to choose that? That's not something I don't have. Wait, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And then it was just a cascade for all the reasons I felt so weird and bad for my whole life. I was like, oh my God, because people keep trying to make me a woman and I'm not a woman. Oh, and then I feel weird and bad. Oh, that's crazy. Shopping in the sections that I'm shopping in, of course I don't fucking like it. Of course, wearing clothes. Of course. Oh my God. And it's just been oh my God feelings for a few months, ever since I told those children that I was non-binary. And it was really funny. I just think that's so funny that I told these children I was non-binary before I told anybody else. And still, I'm only saying it here because this is what I'm thinking. I don't really spend a lot of time talking about it. Mostly because I haven't been researching it. There's this other thing that is happening on the internet where it's you're being gay wrong. You're being gay wrong. You're not doing gender right. But you're not being transgender right. You're not being non-binary in the appropriate gay way. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like infighting in the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of infighting in any community because people are suffering, but there's a lot of that feeling. That's what I get. That's what I get from a lot of posts, unfortunately, because I'm reading like miserable trans Twitter. I'm sure there are way more normal trans people who are like, it doesn't matter, who cares? Because that's how I feel. Not in so much that our rights are getting taken away and, you know, people are being murdered, but just in the fact that it's like, you can just be whoever you are. You just be whoever you are. It's fine. Not a fan of you aren't being you correctly in communities. Yeah, yes, in any community where it's like, you're not doing the things right. That's actually like this very like punitive interaction is like what I'm not a fan of. But I don't have any, I don't want to say any. That's not true. I am friends with trans people, but none of my very close friends are trans. And I guess non-binary is trans, but maybe not. I don't know how it works. And then I'm like, I'm not none of the above. Can I just pick none of the above? Not whatever that all is. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't feel the need to change anything at the moment. Although I did think about changing my name to Harley because that's a cool name and it's just like my real name. It's just like my birth name. Except people think my name is Harley when I tell them my name is Carly. And people have been going, Harley? For a really long time. Harley? No, Carly. Oh. And I'm like, wouldn't Harley be such a cool name? And they're like, yeah, that would be a cool name. I'm like, that was pretty cool. That's a pretty cool name. So I did think about that, changing my name to Harley. But it doesn't, Carly cute. Harley effing badass. That's what I'm saying, A-Start. My mom almost named me that. No way! Harley twins. Yeah, I was like, if it gets to the point where I change enough and I'm like, okay, I probably need a new name, it'll be Harley. But I don't know that it's necessary just yet. But gender is a crazy thing. And so now I'm like, I need to read some books about gender because I don't really understand the study of it. I only know my very narrow experience and like patriarchal, heterosexual, white, supremacist American lens. Even though I have learned from osmosis on the internet about certain things, I don't feel like I understand my own gender as it is such. Like the idea of like, I'll tell you this, the idea of being like, oh my God, my mom almost named me Nigel, so glad my dad talked her out of that. Nigel? That's like if you're British royalty. Nigel? You would have been a different guy, I think, with a name like Nigel. Nigel? Is it a family name? That's hilarious. Gender. Yeah, I don't understand my own gender. But the thing that I keep thinking about is like, oh my God, I can wear whatever I want though. I can wear whatever I want. That's the thing. Because even now, as an adult, I was still like, well, I have to shop in the women's section. Did your mom like Wild Thornberries? Remember Wild Thornberries? It's like, I have to shop in the women's section. I have to figure out what to wear out of these. And I haven't gone like shopping at like Target, but like my mom was born in England, so it made a bit more sense, but I was also born in the US, so it would not have been great for me. No, yeah, Nigel? Well, I guess that makes sense for her to name you Nigel. What is the American equivalent to Nigel? Michael? What is that? Because Nigel seems like a very British name. Can confirm. I'm pretty sure my granddad's name was Nigel, or it's a family name somewhere. Yeah, it's incredibly British. Handsbands live with the name change. We're talking about name changes. Handsbands live with the name change. Let's freaking go. But yes. Yes, I'm not a woman. That's the prevailing feeling. Smokey, it occurs to me your name is just Smokey to me. Yeah, I was also like, wait, I don't think I know Smokey's person name. I only know Smokey's online name. I see Smokey so much. Smokey McHaggis so much. I don't know Smokey's real name. You don't have to share that here. By the way, you never have to do anything you don't want to do. But I think only Verd and Sava probably know my government name. I always felt like maybe a person, not a guy, not a girl. And I've always struggled with the boundaries on gender norms because of it. Yeah, me too. I really fucked it with my name. I don't ever really get called Hansbands unless it's someone new. Hans? Hans? You mean Hannah? Like nobody's ever gonna know you're Hannah? Might as well quit now. Everyone just calls me Hannah. Oh. Yeah, I guess I just call you Hannah. I don't call you Hans. Hans. Some people call you Hans. It is fine. Yeah, I just didn't understand. I always felt like maybe a person. Yeah, I feel like me. And I don't really, a lot of it too is like I don't like having to ascribe to gender. That's the thing I like the least. Like, even if you were, like, even if I was, I don't feel like a woman. I don't feel like a man. I think you is a pretty good person to be. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Nanners. What I know is that when I said, like, oh, well, I'm not a woman, that was like, whoa, nice. I like that. I like that feeling of, like, because there's a lot of pressure to be like a woman. The only time I feel like a woman is during the classic iconic song from Shania Twain. Yes, there's a lot of like pressure. And this is also, I think, contributes to my Peter Pan syndrome because there isn't, when I was young, I'll say when I was young, there was not a way, there was no modeling, there were no non-binary people that I could model myself after. No, people were non-binary. I don't know what David Bowie identified as. I haven't done the research, but like someone who does not ascribe to gender norms would be someone like David Bowie. And that is someone I identify with. And I always liked really, really masculine women, like tomboys. And I always wanted to be the tomboy one. I always wanted to be the one like in Atlantis. Do you know Disney's Atlantis? The team. They're all kind of pretty non-binary to me, but the girl who was like the machinist who wore overalls, I was like, yeah. But I never felt incredibly feminine. I have feminine traits. I have feminine traits for sure. But I also have masculine traits. But I just felt like the way that I grew up, I wasn't allowed to be whatever it is that I was. I had to be a very watered down version of whatever I was for a very long time, for like, I'll say up until last year, when I kind of stopped talking to my mom. because of the oppression of my personality that I allowed to continue for my entire adult life up to that point. And then I couldn't take it anymore, and I stopped allowing it to continue. Me too, especially around family, but even friends would judge, and so Jeff a hollow version of self. Yes. I have friends who love me and who are like my family and who support me and want me to be myself, which I'm grateful for. I think I would be considered, well, I'm trans, I don't know what it is. Being more feminine from male is generally socially seen as more of a faux pas than being more masculine from female. At least that's the climate that I can get. So I can see how you especially feel like it's not doable. Or, yeah, especially here in the Midwest. Yes. I just didn't think about it. I was just like, yeah, everybody, it's normal to feel wrong and bad. It's normal to feel bad. Just bad and like you've never done anything right in your life. But I think it's a lot of gender stuff. It's okay to hate myself for wanting to be me. Shut the fuck up. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all I've been thinking about is gender stuff. And like how even what we believe is real about gender isn't necessarily true. And so I'm very interested in coming up with a plan. No, just integrating myself into more people, communities, spheres where gender is being explored and celebrated. Gender expansiveness, transgenderness, queerness. But that's all I've been thinking about is made like a Pinterest board of like ways to dress and like how I want to look. And I found some non-binary people. Instagram's so funny too because it's just an algorithm. So Instagram's like, oh, you're non-binary? All right, you fucking queer. Here's all these fucking non-binary people. Oh, you're like that. Okay. Like then Instagram was like, here's all these non-binary people for you to see which kind of non-binary you like. And I thought that was funny. I was like, thanks, Instagram. Still trying to sell me stuff. Hey, gay people, trans people, they have money. Love that you made a Pinterest board. I had to. Well, and I was just like, whoa. I was like, what? Wait. I can wear whatever I want. Like, whatever I want? Yeah. Yeah, you can wear whatever you want and do whatever you want and say your name is whatever it is. And, but I was always, and still am, my family does not know I'm not binary. I put it on Instagram real quick before I got on here. But I have no idea how to tell them that because I don't even really understand what that means to me. I only understand it in what it is not, which is not how I want to define myself. I don't want to define myself. I don't really want to define myself, if I'm being really honest. I don't want to have to. But if I have to, I don't want to define myself in terms of what I am not. I would like to define myself in terms of what I am. I noticed it in your Twitch tags the other day, but I figured it's something you would talk about if you wanted to. Yeah, I tagged it because I want them to find me. I want them to find me. And then I got this really gay haircut because I was like, I need them to find me. Because I would like some other non-binary friends. And collaborators and creators. But I did put the non-binary tag on my Twitch. For sure. Not that I'm like, okay, everyone, I'm non-binary now, so you'll never see me again. I'm meeting all new friends, but I have to figure out how to get get some trans and non-binary friends. So you'll never see me again. I just keep thinking about, and I'm like, why didn't you think about that before? And the reason was because we didn't have Instagram. When I got Instagram when I was 26. And by that point, I'd been playing as like a young woman for so long that it was just like, yeah, this is just what you do. I don't know. This is just what you do. I love that. Congrats. Accepting yourself and showing yourself as you and not what people think you should be is not easy. I'm proud of you. Thank you, A-Star. Thank you. It is a good place to ask about pronouns. Do you have any feelings on those? Not so much. It's hard, and this is why it's been so confusing, Hannah, because I don't feel like a he, for sure not a he. They, sure. She, yeah. But I don't feel like a woman. This is where it gets weird. When I was a little girl, I felt like a little girl. A child. Because they're not, there's something about the transition between girl, she, because she is not a woman. She is like a feminine. Whereas like a woman, like I would say like I'm a grown woman and that wouldn't feel right, even though I thought I was. So she, they, I guess, and then I'm like, okay, I'm like wondering, the more I experiment with gender, I don't know how it's going to change. I don't know how I'm going to change or how my relationships to things are going to change. Because I had never allowed myself to experiment. Because I didn't think you could. But you can, actually. And I feel like a little baby because there's, so many, like, because I'm on the internet and I follow trans creators. And I follow non-binary people. And like, the most popular one. And I feel like, oh, I'm like a little baby. Because I'm thinking of it, because I was always thinking of it as like, yeah, I want to know more. Yeah, I want to know more. And then now that it's like from my perspective, I'm like, this is so weird. This is so interesting. Not weird bad, but interesting, strange. Also, it makes me think, and then I think the way that it is, and this is how I feel about everything, is that the way that it, like, I was told that it was is actually the weird thing. And the way that it, like, is from a different perspective is actually more accurate, but maybe only for me. But I think even people who identify as their gender still have issues with the way we do gender. Like, they still are like, girls only play with dolls. Boys only, like, that, all of that stuff, like, even people who are cisgender are still like, is a lot of the point of the fluidity of gender that it's supposed to change with how you feel at a particular moment? Yeah, and then that's the other thing, Smokey, is that I'm like, I took a test once, and I think I answered correctly, but I'd probably like to take it again to see. I think it changes. I do think it changes, which is, I think that's the other thing where it's like, there's sometimes I do feel very feminine. There's sometimes I do feel more masculine. Have you ever listened to Am I a Girl by Poppy? I remember that song connecting with my thoughts of it. Ooh, is it song? It's a song. Remember that song, yes. For a second, I was like, is it a podcast? I should listen to it. Let me put it. Am I a girl? I won't play it. I'm going to listen to it off here because I don't want to get dumb sad. Dumb sad. Dude. Well, and it's just, it was like a voice clear as day in my head that was just like, well, I'm not a woman. And I was like, whoa, that's new. That's actually accurate, I think. Because I would be frustrated. And the other thing was, for me, specifically, growing up, is I would be frustrated as what people would expect me to be like. And I'm like, I'm not like that, though. And I would be like, I don't know why all these people who claim to love me keep trying to make me do stuff that is not inherent to me. That is not a skill that I wish to cultivate. I don't know why you keep referencing as if I should know all this stuff, because I don't. And I had friends who accepted that about me, even though they, like, I thought I was a woman and they thought I was a woman. They still accepted. They were like, okay, well, that's not a gendered thing. That's just not your thing. But other people would be like, you should know this. And I'd be like, no, I shouldn't. Fuck you. Why do you expect me to be this way when I'm not, obviously? And that's what was so confusing, is because it was like, I didn't know about trans people until I was much older, an adult. I don't know how old, but an adult. Even though they've been here for literally as long as people have been alive. Why, hello, voice in my head, who are we? Yes! And then even with and then I was like, well, I don't feel like I'm a man. So that's out, you know? It was the same thing with being bisexual, where it's like, well, I might think women are beautiful, but I also have crushes on boys, so I must not be gay. It's like, well, you can be, turns out you can like both. And the same thing with non-binary and being like gender queer, gender fluid. It's like, I don't really feel like I don't feel like any of these things that you're telling me I should be. So it's hard for me to say one way or the other, because I don't feel like any of those actually. Yeah, I don't like that gender is tied to so many gender norms. I'm a guy, but I don't like all the guy stuff. Yeah, and I'm same thing where I was like, I'm a woman, but like I don't do a lot of like womanly things. Like there's some womanly things that I do. Like, and then I got sad because I was like, but I like doing my makeup. I like doing my fun eyeshadow. Like, is that, you know? And then there's the idea of like, you want to present, because there's another thing that I wrestle with, which is like, I want to present in a way, and I think that's everybody's struggle, where it's like, the voice in my head is always very confused. It tracks. Yeah, I'm just like, I want to present in a way where you at least know that I'm not straight up a woman. That's it. But I think I've been doing that kind of anyway, regardless of what I was publicly identifying as or not. And I think everybody should do that, because it doesn't, even if you identify as a woman but don't, you know, look like whatever you're supposed to look like, or if you identify as a man but you don't, like, it doesn't matter. Because like, for all intents and purposes, I don't mind clicking female. For me, now, right now, that might change. But I'm like, I don't care. Like, if that makes it make sense to this form, sure. Biologically, like medically, yeah. Organs, yes. In this body, for sure. And that's the other thing, is that and that's the other thing that made me laugh, is because like, when I was introduced to the concept of like oneness and like being a consciousness, that resonated with me so much harder than like being in a body. Like, being in a body is like, I guess, sure, yeah, if I have to be to do my work on the earth, I guess I will. And I would choose a female body, because in terms of like socialization, I like to be like socialized a little bit more feminine than masculine if I had to choose, from my perspective. But also, this is a flesh vision for my soul, or whatever. This body is not me. Yeah. But and that's the other thing, is like, I think there's another version of that teaching, because we came, and then and then it's so funny that we're tying it back to this, because this is what I think of. It depends on the version you go through. A lot of the helpful teachings, spiritual teachings, the helpful ones, at least that I've observed, are embodied. And in order to be embodied, you have to be in your body. And so a big part of that is accepting whatever your body is, but not identifying with it, which is hard. But it may be easier if you are allowed to be if you're allowed to have the body that you feel like you should, or if you are allowed to express yourself in the way. And I think that is where a lot of people become disembodied, actually. It's not because they hate having a body, it's they hate the current social constriction of having a body, because we are policed and oppressed and repressed about our bodies all the time. And I remember one time I was tripping and I had the epiphany. I was like, oh, and this might not resonate with other with trans people who, this might not resonate with all trans people, but I did have the thought, I was like, oh, now I get why a non-binary person would get top surgery. It's not because they hate their boobs. It's because boobs carry meaning in our social structure. And having the boobs actually is like covering them up, is like covering that person up. Because if you see someone with boobs, you're immediately going to be like, that's a lady. Because that's how you're programmed. That's the thing. You cut them off. Now what are you? I don't know. Doesn't matter. And that's what I observed in a lot of trans masculine, trans non-binary, androgynous like creators and people who are just like existing on the internet to be like, hey, I'm being alternative. I'm having an alternative gender situation. I was like, oh yeah, I get that. I get it. Because the boobs carry something with them that you did not assign them, but that everyone else is going to assign you. Everyone else is going to assign the boobs something. Boobs, more than junk, more than downstairs junk, boobs carry a heavy weight and a heavy tie to womanhood specifically, and specifically to what must be done with that womanhood. And I think that is, many people resent that. At least I do, but I think other even woman identifying people might resent what they are expected to be and do as a woman. But I always have. And it made me feel better being like, yes, I'm non-binary. Made me feel better for 11-year-old me who was absolutely not wanting to be in a body. I wore big sweatshirts and like big pants. I didn't want anybody to look at me. I didn't want anybody to perceive me. I did not want to be perceived. And that's another thing that I struggle with, is I want to perform, but I don't want to be perceived. I don't want you to have an opinion about me, but I would like attention. And that is a struggle I think many artists actually go through and struggle with. But I didn't know, being able to hug your inner younger child and letting them finally feel free and accepted by yourself is magical. Yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice to just be like, oh, sweetie. It is weird. Gender's weird. It's okay that you feel like that. Yeah, even when I hated being objectified, and I hated being told, like, I would have people be like, oh God. I did have a friend tell me they thought I had body dysmorphia because of the way that I dressed. But I think what they actually meant, like, not what they meant, but I think what they were picking up on was actually gender dysphoria. And they're impossible to say because it's not quite the same. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know anything, actually. But it's wanting to look a certain way, but people, this is a specific thing that happens with me. People want me to look a certain way, a specific way, a way, because they're perceiving me as a woman. So when I'm dressing like a little, forest gnome or a fucking, extra in a 80s bathing suit music video, like when I'm not dressing, when I'm not presenting, like I'm shaving my fucking head and having a space mullet, when I'm not being that, people perceive it as something else because they're like, well, you're supposed to be looking like a woman. You're supposed to like be growing your hair out. And I tried to grow my hair out. That was another thing. I tried to grow my hair out. You guys remember? I tried to grow my hair out and I was like, I hate this so much. I cannot believe how much I hate this, actually. I was like taken aback because I'd had my hair short for so long. I'd had my hair like shaved and different and funky for so long. And then the idea of growing it out and just seeing it and just being like, I don't, and not even that it's like that makes me not, that doesn't mean anything because you can have long hair or whatever. But the reason I was doing it, I guess I was kind of doing it to see if I could, probably because I hadn't done it. I didn't really have a good reason. Maybe because I'd had my hair short for so long and I was like, well, it's time to grow it back out now. And I was like, I actually don't know if that I ever want to grow my hair out ever again. Maybe I'll just keep shaving it all off. But it also was a lot of, I didn't want anybody to give a shit about what I looked like. And that's been the big theme of my gender, is like, I actually don't want you to have an opinion. I actually don't, your opinion doesn't matter to me. I'm going to do whatever I want, I think. And I know better than you, actually, so I'm going to do it. And I've been making decisions like that, I'm not making decisions for the person who is judging me, but I'm making decisions just because I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's the end of that. But I wasn't for most of my life. I was not making decisions that way. I didn't know that. Dressing and looking how you want for you makes you comfortable in your body instead of always adhering to what others will think. Yeah. And a lot of that had to do with my familial relations too. A lot of that had to do with the way that I was relating to my family, which is unhealthy. And it's not anybody, it just is what it is. I didn't learn or cultivate healthy relational patterns. And so I have a lot of work to do there, but being like, okay, well, I'm going to start with what I'm actually interested in and then go from there. And so I made a Pinterest board. And so I'm like liking things and like being like, okay, how do I really, really want to look? Because I'm not going to deal with anybody's criticism anymore in terms of like having an opinion that carries any weight of my decision making. I will take fashion advice. I will be like, this is what I'm going for. Androgyny. I am going for androgyny. More androgyny. But also I'm not overly concerned with the gendered aspect of it. And I think I was being way more concerned with gender than I thought I was. I think intellectually I knew that like gender is a construct and it's just an idea and whatever. Intellectually, yes, I knew that. But I did not realize how much I was trying to adhere to something that was not for me, probably in the name of safety or in the name of whatever, choose programming, whatever, choose. Yeah, having parents or parent judging you and critiquing, degrading your attire makes it harder to express yourself. Yeah, and that was my whole life, basically, up until I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. And I feel like after deciding that I'm not going to do that, I feel like I came out of a cult of programming of, needing to be accepted for safety, when it's like, okay, I don't have to do this for safety anymore. Your brain was trying to protect you, even if it was also hurting you, to hide self. Yeah, well, and it was right. And that was the thing. That's the other thing that hurts the most, is that it was like, oh, you were right, though. Like sometimes, because there's times when you always have to make a choice, I think. There are times when you are feeling anxious about something. You're like, I can't do that. They'll hate that. And you care about what this person thinks or what this group of people thinks or whatever. And you think like, I can't do that. They'll hate that. I can't put myself in that position for them to hate me, or I can't put myself in that position. Like, a lot of times it's professional with people. Like, oh, I can't wear my sweatpants to work, to my office job, because that would signal something that I don't want to be signaled, even though I prefer to wear sweatpants all the time. And that's a whole separate conversation too that we don't have to get into. But basically, you make decisions based on what the immediate need is. A lot. We all do. Same thing with like, I'm not gonna, You're not going to wear a bathing suit to the grocery store in the middle of fall because people might look at you weird. And if you're a lady especially, you might get unwanted attention, whatever. We make decisions about how we're going to be perceived all the time. And sometimes they're anxious thoughts that aren't true. Like people will be like, I can't wear that belt. Everyone's going to think I'm dumb, you know, because our poor little brains. I feel like that would be cool, to be frank. Yeah. Well, and then, yeah, protecting your body. But then there are also the like secret things that, you know, like where it's like, I can't dress androgynously because my mom won't love me or maybe not love me, but my mom won't accept that. And in order to have a relationship with my mom, I have to behave in certain ways around her. Maybe not when I'm alone or when I'm with my friends, but I have to behave in certain ways around her where she will accept that. Otherwise, I'll fucking hear about it. And I don't want to hear about it. Which is stressful, which I don't do anymore. But which has affected my whole life. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm just going to change. I'm just going to change now. Now that it's time to change, I shall change. I think I have moments of trying to wear clothes that are what other people wear, but as I'm getting older, I realize a lot of my issues with certain clothes are like more sensory based. Yes, the way they feel is gross. I remember dressing how I wanted and I felt cool or me, and seeing the look on my dad's face and instantly knew I couldn't be me. Yeah. And even though they'll say like, oh, I've always loved you. I love you. I don't know why they're British, but like, always loved you. I love you. What are you talking about? I love you. I love you. It's like, no, you don't, because anytime I tried to actually be myself, I was reprimanded and I was made fun of and I was criticized. So I learned very early I could not be myself. And so that deteriorates our entire relationship for the rest of our lives. Because you didn't like your mom British? No. I don't know where I got that from. Don't look at me. I don't know where I got that from. Don't look at me. But I feel better. It's crazy. It's crazy how much better I feel. It's fucked up, you guys. Gender's weird. It's crazy how much better. See, she's got British face. Wouldn't that be so funny, Hannah? Wouldn't that make so much sense? Actually, no, it wouldn't make any sense. Hannah, do you ever feel mad at me that when I do a British accent? Or you're like, God damn it, C2, stop with your theater kid nonsense. Stop doing it. Because I do it all the time, and it's super annoying. But it's because I'm a theater kid. It's not for any other reason than because I'm a theater kid. Call back. Your mom named Nigel? Is your mom Nigel? Is that your mom, Nigel? No, it's confusing to be alive. It's confusing to be alive. It's confusing to be in a body. It's confusing to like people. It's confusing to love people. But it's worth it. Baby. It's worth it to be yourself. Unfortunately. Boo. No, I pretend to be annoyed with most people though because it feeds into the bit. Good bit. But generally I don't care. Okay, cool. That's good for me to know. That's good for me to know. That's good for me to know. But I keep doing this show. I like doing this show because it's a place for me to have like a little online bitch sesh about my thoughts and like hear your guys' thoughts. It's a place to put my ramblings and to contribute to the collective. But yeah, I was like, maybe I'll just not do it. Even though, because this is the only thing I could think about. And I was like, God, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't understand it. It's like when you like, how do I explain this? You might get it. You might understand. I just love seeing you smiling about yourself when you talk about being non-binary. Like, I can tell you're truly being you, and it seems like it feels freeing to you. It does feel freeing. I'll tell this story. I have a friend who is trans femme, and I think they're trans femme non-binary, so they prefer they them, but I haven't asked them in a few years, so I don't know. She, they. But when I met them, they used to be a he. And when they started going through their transition, I was open to it, but I wasn't ready to understand it because they were the first person who I had been close to who was transitioning. And there's this idea that, like, you have been wrong about them, kind of, like, and you feel like I don't know, I felt like I was, like, bad for everything. I don't know, there's this weird guilt, and that's just, I think I just have, like, a lot of guilt I think I just grew up with a lot of shame. So, like, I just have that. I just carry that around with me, like a disgusting backpack filled with shame that I am, like, constantly unpacking. Like, oh my God, stop feeling like this. Oh, this is so heavy. But I felt, like, bad for not understanding because we are from, like, the southwest suburbs of Chicago, which is, like, the most toxic, patriarchal, white person place to be from. One of the most. And I didn't understand, and I felt bad for not understanding. But I think the other thing that was happening that I didn't understand was happening was that them transitioning, and this is what happens a lot, I think happens a lot with trans people specifically, is that, and with people in general, is some people see somebody being themselves and it makes them feel better. And some people see it and they're like, how are you not oppressing yourself like I am? Why don't you know that you're not allowed to be free? How dare you? And because then for them, they're repressing themselves. So now, because this person's being free, now they have to fucking be like, oh, fuck. Well, if I could really choose, I would choose this. And then trans people are like, well, then choose that. And they're like, no, don't you understand? And then it's this fucking, like, and that's what happened with me. I remember seeing my friend transitioning and crying alone, thinking, why can't I be free? Yes, dude. It sucks. It sucks because then you're like, oh my God, I don't have choice. You're like, oh my God. Fuck. Fuck. You're like, fuck. Fuck. I knew it. And it wasn't like, and what it is to, I mean, for me, at least, it's like, my whole life is like, I don't want to hear about it. My whole life is like, I want to avoid making a mess for myself. But I think being myself is worth making a mess about, unfortunately, even if I'm doing it badly. Like, I'm going to use the wrong terminology and I'm going to say the wrong shit. I'm going to be gay the wrong way or something. I don't know. Like, it always feels like, it still feels like even in the pursuit of, like, trying to be yourself, you're, like, doing something wrong or whatever. Fuck the gender norm flesh person story. And, like, I don't want anyone to think, because I've been pretty authentic. I'm going to screenshot that because that made me laugh. I'm putting that in LOL chat. I don't want anyone to think that I wasn't really there. You know, like, oh, well, they weren't being themselves. And it's like, I don't want you to think that, because I've been a lot myself. More so than my mom would ever want me to be. But I've been pretty myself. But I don't want anyone to think, even when I was being very, like, feminine or whatever, I don't want anyone to think that I wasn't there either, because I was. It was just a different thing. Not that it matters what anybody thinks, but, like, I had this idea. I also had this idea of having a funeral on stream and having a funeral for who I was, who you thought I was. A funeral for anybody who you thought I was, that it turns out that I'm not. And it might not even be a gender thing. Maybe you thought I was a lot nicer than I was, but I'm actually kind of an asshole. Maybe you thought that I liked this thing, but I didn't. I don't. And I want you to stop bringing it up to me. It's like leveling a video game character. You keep unlocking levels to yourself, and while it's you at the time, you continue to grow into the true, authentic you. Yeah, I feel like I planted a seed at some point. And I've been taking care of it, and I'm like, this is a big plant. This plant is very big. And I need more room. It turns out, I thought it was just going to be a little guy. I thought it was just going to be a little plant that I knew. Oh, my little plant. And now the plant's like, I'm a tree, bitch. Make some room. Turns out I'm a tree. Surprise. And it doesn't make any sense. And I also, none of it matters. But I can't stop thinking about gender. I really want to read some gender books about what people thought about gender. I really want to know what people are thinking about. And what people have come up with socially. Because I know what the artists think, and I know what the poets think, because I've been listening to them and I've been absorbing their words. And it's funny because I was like, yeah, I have tons of trans and non-binary people that I follow and that I like. I was like, wow. And I always felt rude for being like, me too. Is that funny? I always felt rude, like a rude bitch, for being like, yeah, me too. I feel the same way, Alok. I feel like that. Really? You feel like that? Interesting. That's interesting. Oh, gender's weird. It's very weird. And I'm always undoing, because I still hold very patriarchal programming. Because I was older before I was introduced to gender non-conforming ideas. So I have a lot of deprogramming to do. That's what the next step of my journey is. My journey as a person. My leveling up in my video game is I'm deprogramming a lot of programming. Just like uninstalling stuff that's like, we don't need that. We don't need that way of thinking. Socially and genderly. It's all social. Yes, like who I am. Who am I to tell people I feel the same? I'm so fake and ignorant. Just making it about me. Blah, blah. Slowly trying to allow myself to accept me and accept that I do belong with people. Yeah. It's hard to be with people, but it is also easy. I think it gets easier when you accept yourself. And even when you accept yourself as like a very flawed individual. I'm so fake and ignorant. That's so funny. I love that. I'm so fake and ignorant. Like, I don't know anything. I like when I learn something and then I feel like I know everything and then I'm like immediately shown that I don't know anything. And the more that I learn just out of like curiosity for life, even more I realize I don't know anything. Wow. Isn't it amazing how little any of us knows about anything? And we have all of the world's knowledge at our fingertips and still it's nothing compared to the mysteries of everything? Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy? It's wild. I do feel better though. I'm glad that I did this little show. I don't know. I don't really want to explain anything to anybody. I'm not really at that point right now because I don't really even know what's going on. I'm not like, hey, you know? But yeah, I'm non-binary and I'm bisexual. I like hot people. That's how I explain my sexuality. I really like hot people. Which is so basic and lame too in itself. I'm what's your sexuality? Shallow? No. That's a joke. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, everybody. I don't know what's going on, but I do feel better in general these days because a lot of my like sadness was coming from like me repressing myself. And now I'm just gonna be just a little gremlin person. Like my true form. I already got my gender affirming haircut. I think it looks really good. I need some like styling spray. But yeah, I got my little space mullet for the summer. I'm gonna go to some gay events. Queer, non-binary, trans events. Make some friends. That's the other thing. I'm new and I don't want to offend anyone or make anyone upset. I'm just gonna hide. I'm just gonna hide forever. But I do need more like gender expansive community. I'll say gender expansive community. Just for me, just for my life, you know. But I love all of you. Thank you for listening to my gender rant and my story about how I told a group straight, no, gay, no, want to smash hot people, that's me. Line them up. Thank you for listening to my story about how I came out as non-binary to a bunch of children while I was teaching them magic. Not Magic the Gathering either. Actual sleight of hand magic. That's funny. I think that's funny. I missed the story. I was teaching magic to children and they asked, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And I said, "It's funny you should ask. I'm non-binary. I'm neither." But I think it's funny that that was the first people I came out to was a group of like first kindergartners and first graders. It was like 2 first graders and like 4 kindergartners. And they were like, "Are you a boy or girl?" They clacked me right away. They were like, "We know you're not a lady." We got a lot of ladies here and you don't look like any of them. Oops. Oh, but that's cool. I can be part of the gender non-conforming groups. I hope I don't get hate crimed. Kids, they'll always let you know. They will. I just said I hope I don't get hate crimed. God, it's bleak, but it's fun, you know? It's bleak, but it's fun. Kids are brutal. Yeah. They really are. They're mean to each other, too. That was my least favorite thing about teaching kids was how mean they were to each other. I was just like, oh my God, you guys are fucking terrible to each other. Except for the one class that I loved so much, and they were all perfect angels, and I got them a lot of candy. Oh, yes. She's gay. She's they. She's gay and she's they. That's me, folks. But I do like C2. I do like C2 as a gender neutral existence. A gender neutral letter and a number. Isn't that so non-binary of me? Thank you all for attending The Spark here on the Trident Network, a 3-pronged digital entertainment network that produces live content here on Twitch right now, recorded content on our YouTube channel where you can find this show after it's recorded, and boasts a thriving podcast collective that you can find anywhere you can find podcasts. Here are our links. She's Harley. Maybe one day. I don't think it would be that big. Carly or Harley, whichever you wish. That's me. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next month here on the Trident Network. I love you all. Oh, let me put my links too. Even though I know you guys know all my links, but maybe you don't. Who knows? I don't know what you know. Okay. Okay, love you. Bye.